What's up, nerds? So, Clara, who I like to refer to as Mr. Svarog, is one of the lesser appreciated characters in Honkai Star Rail because she's from the standard banner. However, she's one of the better characters in this game, one of the best physical, and she's one of the most fun characters to play. And with her being one of, if not the best character for pure fiction right now, I thought no better time than now to make a Clara build guide. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's talk about some relics. We're going to talk about the actual relic sets themselves, then the planar ornaments, which are also relics, and then we'll go into main stats and substats after that. The first set I want to mention, which is like my favorite set for follow-up characters, of course, is the Ash Blazing Grand Duke set. The two-piece bonus increases the damage dealt by follow-up attacks by 20%. A noteworthy amount of damage. The only problem is the 4-piece bonus when the wearer uses their follow-up attacks, it increases the wearer's attack by 6% for every time the follow-up attack deals damage. This is only going to happen one time for Clara. She doesn't have a follow-up attack like Jing Yuan's that has multiple hits. It's just one hit, so I would not at all run the 4-piece. Please don't run the 4-piece of this on her unless you have the most god-tier substats in the entire world. Run the 2-piece of this set on her, and then use a 2-piece of something else, and we'll get into that in just a moment here. I wanted to first go ahead and mention the champion set, the physical set. This does have a good 2-piece bonus. It increases the physical damage by 10%. Very good pairing with the Ash Blazing Grand Duke set if you happen to have it. The 4-piece bonus, after the wearer attacks or is hit, their attack increases by 5% for the rest of battle. Very good. And she's going to get a lot of attacks because, you know, she's Clara. She does counters and she does follow-ups. This effect can stack up to 5 times. Very good. That means 25% attack. That is very good. There's just one problem with this set. This set doesn't really work on that many characters because Clara, it works on Argenti. Unfortunately, Su Shang and Luca are better as break characters. And that means they're not going to want to wear this physical set. It's just a fact. This physical set doesn't work on all too many characters. So you're going to be farming this a lot, and it might not give your account very much value overall besides the few characters that it could work well on. So I'll explain why I also don't like this set in just a moment. We'll put a pin in that. This is a good set, though. If you happen to have good gear, go ahead and give it a shot. But I wouldn't go necessarily farming this set. Again, I'll explain in just a moment. Let's look at some other 2-piece bonuses that could work well with the Ash Blazing Grand Duke, because this is clearly my favorite set for her right now. You could use the Pioneer set. It increases the damage dealt to enemies with debuffs by 12%. You only need one debuff for this to work. Clara does not provide her own debuffs, however, so you're going to have to run somebody else like Topaz. Topaz is a great pairing for Clara. Really good character to pair with Clara. However, unless you have her, it might not be the greatest option for you unless you're running her with Pela or Silverwolf or something like that. So keep that in mind. You are limited to team compositions when using this set on Clara, so you may or may not want to try that out. We have the Prisoner set. It gives a 2-piece bonus attack increase by 12%. Very good. Clara likes to have high attack, so this does work well on her. Musketeer, 2-piece bonus, does the exact same thing. 12% attack. And a lot of people have good Musketeer stuff by this point because it's been around since 1.0. Plenty of opportunities to have gotten good Musketeer gear. So let's go ahead and take a look at why I don't necessarily like this champion set. All right, so check this out because this is very, very important because relic farming is one of the most annoying yet important things in Honkai Star Rail, and the better you can min-max your relic farming, the better it is for your account overall because you need the most opportunities you can get to get good gear with good substats. Unfortunately, the physical set is in the same domain as the break gear. And unfortunately, unless you're running a dedicated breaker, the break gear, this old break gear, is not necessarily the best. Like for Ron May, for example, if you had perfect substat rolls, this is actually the better break gear for her because of the 4-piece bonus you get for your whole squad, for your whole team. Be aware substats are most important rather than a 4-piece or 2-piece bonus in most cases. So this is only really good on Ron May because she's not a dedicated breaker. She wants some break in order to hit certain things of her kit to make her work well, but she's not necessarily a dedicated breaker. So keep that in mind. If you are running a dedicated breaker, this set is still the best. However, it's a little bit more niche, right? Break effect builds are not necessarily the most ideal set for most of the DPS characters in the game. So this physical set, which is also more niche and doesn't necessarily work the best on every character in the game, unfortunately, this domain is not necessarily the most fun to run. However, if you take a look at the Ash Blazing Grand Duke set, it's going alongside the Prisoner set. The Prisoner set is really, really good. It's the best set for DOT characters, and the 2-piece bonus works really well on a lot of characters. And it's the same domain as the Ash Blazing Grand Duke. If you're farming for Clara, just farm this, right? You have way more opportunities to get something good for your account because you have really good follow-up gear. And the follow-up meta is on a rise. We recently got Topaz, a follow-up character. We got Dr. Ratio, a great follow-up character that every single player has and every single player can build. And we have follow-up characters coming in the future, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, that could benefit from this set as well, potentially. And Clara can use this set. Any follow-up character can use this set to its benefit, right? And this set here, best set for DOT characters, and the 2-piece bonus is really good. This is just min-maxing your farming for your account for a Clara or a lot of other follow-up characters as well. A very good domain to farm. So my suggestion, if you are farming for Clara, is consider just running this set and this set here and just farm the crap out of this. Even if you are a new player, this is a really good move to make if you are trying to farm out really good gear for Clara. It's going to benefit your account more overall than probably running this domain here. Unless you really do like dedicated breakers and physical characters. Not a whole lot of them in the game you can really use, but something to think about there. So you probably didn't need me to tell you this, but Inert Soul Sato is the set for her, right? The 2-piece increases the wearer's crit rate by 8%, incredibly valuable when building a standard banner character like Clara, who the standard banner characters don't really give themselves a lot of crit value in their own kit. Clara, for example, doesn't give herself anything, including inner traces. So really good for her. When the wearer's current crit rate reaches 50% or higher, the wearer's ultimate and follow-up attack damage increased by 15%. Well, that's convenient because most of Clara's damage comes from her follow-up attacks. Very good, Solsato. That's the set for her. That's the set for Clara. However, you might be considering, oh, what about Frontline Firmament? Well, the 2-piece bonus does give you some attack. That's pretty good. The problem is you're not going to probably be hitting these speed breakpoints. Clara is very, very slow, right? Clara is very slow, and she's not going to hit these breakpoints in most cases. I do not recommend putting speed on her. She's a follow-up character. Let her sit back, look pretty, and smack people with follow-up attacks. That's the way to play Clara, in my opinion. So you're not going to benefit off this set that much. Or from Space Sealing Station, because you have yet another speed breakpoint you have to hit. Unfortunately, it's just a situation where you want Clara to be like over 100 speed, but beyond that, it's not necessarily all that important. You just want to buff the crap out of her, let her get hit, and just let her hit people with follow-up attacks. That's the way to play her, at least in my opinion. All right, so let's talk about some main stats and then some sub-stats after that. Clara, I did mention earlier, unfortunately does not give herself any crit value in her traces, which is an unfortunate situation because it relies entirely on your relics in order to get those crit values you really want. And Clara, unfortunately, needs a ton of crit rate because she does not have multi-hit. So it relies on really high crit rate in order to deal the proper amounts of damage that you want. And I, mention this all the time. If you don't have enough crit rate, you're not gonna crit very often. I don't care if you have 1,000 crit damage. It doesn't mean shit unless you're getting your crits. So definitely keep that in mind. So you might have to run a crit rate body piece like I'm running here in order to, give yourself a better odds in order to get your crits. So definitely something to consider there. You could run a crit damage body piece if you have god tier crit rate substats, but good luck, cowboy. All right, you're probably not going to get there. Some of you might, and some of you are going to say, oh, I can do it. That's not relatable, okay? Most people are probably going to have to run a crit rate body on her. Again, you can run crit damage if you want. So a beautiful crit rate, crit rate body piece like this with high crit damage is a super good piece to use, okay? Consider that. Now let's quit yapping. Let's get into the boots. This is an attack boot situation. Do not run speed boots on her. My opinion, but don't run speed boots on her. She is literally a character that you post up on the field, you power her up, and you let everybody just hit her and she stands there, looks pretty, and just smacks enemies with counters. Her follow-up attack damage is where most of her damage comes from. She does not need to be built for speed, so put attack boots on her and just let her pop off, okay? Let her deal the damage that she wants. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the planar sphere. Physical boost. Boom. There you go. Easy. GG. Done. However, you could run an attack piece if you wanted to, but the physical piece is better. But it's all about substats, substats, substats. If I had a physical piece that had super high crit damage like this, I might consider running that instead, right? But I happen to have a physical piece with high crit damage, and so I'm going to run this. It is the better option. It is the more ideal piece to use. Now let's talk about the rope here. Now, it's going to be an attack rope, right? Because you don't need energy on her, right? Because she's going to get hit a lot. She has really, really, really high taunt value. Enemies love to smack Clara right upside the head. She gets hit a ton, so you're going to gain energy whenever she gets hit. Trust me, bro, you're going to have her ult active regularly. You don't have to worry about that, especially if you pair her with Ting Yun or like Huo. Trust me, your ult is not a worry here. Just put an attack rope on her and call it a day. Now let's get into some substats. Real quick, Clara is real damn slow, and technically there is a breakpoint for speed at 100 speed. And she's at 90, so if you could get her above 100, that's great. It's not like required, but if you could get some speed substats to get there, that's nice. But trust me, speed is not her most important stat. The most important stats for her are obviously crit damage and crit rate, defense, survivability, attack percent. That's what you're looking for. You want to have really, really good like crit rate, crit damage. You also want to have, attack percent, defense, maybe some HP. Those are the most important stats in my opinion. That's really all that it is. Crit damage, crit rate, attack percent, defense, HP. Those are the ones you really, really want. As far as the light cone situation is concerned, a lot of people immediately turn to something irreplaceable, Clara's signature light cone. However, even though I actually have this light cone, I'm running on the fall of an Aeon on my Clara, and I'll explain why. Because at Super Imposition 5, this actually, in my opinion, outperforms the Clara light cone. That's what I'm finding, at least, because you gain all of these stacks really, really quickly with Clara. And that means that she's technically outperforming the other cone. The attack bonus is technically better here. And this damage bonus that you get on the bottom here as well is easier to proc, in my personal opinion. She's going to be attacking a lot. So if you use her against physical weak enemies, she's going to be breaking weaknesses very often, keeping this basically constantly up. Now let's compare it to Clara's just for a second here. You do have a condition attached to this damage buff as well, just like on the fall of an Aeon, but I like the ability that we have from on the fall of an Aeon more. I think it's more consistent in my opinion. It even lasts for more time, which I really like. You do have the static attack, so from the very start of the match, you do get this attack bonus, which is nice, and it's a lot safer because it has ability to gain UHP back. So if you need that, that's fine. If you need that, this is a great light cone. It's very safe. It's very comfy. But if you have a well set up team and a well enough built up Clara, this light cone here pops the hell off. This is the better damage cone in my opinion. It's more of like a high risk, high reward situation. This is the light cone that I prefer on my Clara, for example. You have a secret vow. This is good too. At S5, it's a really dang good cone. It works pretty well on the Clara. However, like I said, I still like on the fall of the Aeon the most. In fact, I might like it more than any cone. Now, I need to point out a cone that I'm not too sure about here. Blade's cone. I don't have this cone, so I can't test this myself. So maybe one of you could test this kind of like for me, I guess. It increases the wearer's crit rate, which is really good for Clara. As I mentioned earlier, she wants a ton of crit rate. And it increases the HP by 18%, giving her more survivability. This is looking good so far. When the wearer is attacked or consumes their own HP, she's going to get hit pretty often, their damage increases by 24%. Very, very good. This effect is removed after the wearer uses an attack, so it does fall off, but it is a good bonus. So I don't know. This is an interesting cone, because I am a little bit worried about one of the abilities on the cone. When the wearer is attacked or consumes their own HP, their damage increases by 24%, but this effect is removed after the wearer uses an attack. So does that count her follow-up attacks? Because if it counts her follow-up attacks, then this cone all of a sudden is not as good in my opinion. I don't know. I can't test it myself. Report back to me if you know more. If you happen to have this cone, try it out on your Clara maybe, see how it works. But if this effect falls off every counter that she does, it's not a good cone. It is a good cone if it doesn't fall off for counterattacks, which would be pretty good. Definitely an option for her. We have other destruction cones from signature light cones from other characters that are pretty good, but the reason why this Jing Liu light cone doesn't work as well on other characters is because Jing Liu can proc this second ability very often. Other characters don't really proc it very often. For example, when an ally excluding the wearer gets attacked or loses HP, that's the condition. Unfortunately, Clara is the one usually getting attacked on a Clara team, so your other allies are not going to get hit, and it does say excluding the wearer. So unfortunately, this light cone falls off very quickly, and Dan Hung's cone unfortunately requires basic attacks. We're never going to hit a basic attack with our Clara, ever. Flames of Far has another condition that we might not necessarily meet all of the time as well. I don't like it. It's not as consistent. I mentioned it already. I really like On the Fall of an Aeon. Under the Blue Sky, just simply not as good. The attack bonus here at S5 is good. The crit value is conditional, however. Could be really good, but I like On the Fall of an Aeon more. Nowhere to Run, the Battle Pass cone, pretty darn good cone. Not gonna lie, but it's attached to the Battle Pass, and not everybody has the Battle Pass. So, it's a pretty easy no-brainer here. On the Fall of an Aeon, literally anyone can use this, and in my opinion, it might even be her best cone. As far as good character synergy goes for Clara, Sparkle and Bronya don't necessarily work as well as many might think, because Clara doesn't really need the action advance. She wants to sit there, be buffed up, and deal a ton of damage by getting hit and dealing counterattacks through a follow-up synergy that she has built into her kit. So you want somebody like Ting Yun that can give her a ton of energy, because Clara's ultimate, when it runs out of stacks, you want to get that back as fast as possible so that she doesn't have damage fall off, and so that she remains really, really strong because she has damage negation through that ult. Ting Yun gives you damage, attack, and energy. Perfect pairing for Clara. Can't stress enough how good Ting Yun is for Clara. Yet another character that Ting Yun's good with, am I right? Now, Ron Mei, she just has to sit there and just buff people without even having to think about it. Ron Mei, probably the best support in the entire damn game, man, I swear to God. And she just sits there. She's so skill point efficient. She gives you a bunch of damage bonus. Really great, because that's just static. Clara doesn't care. She just wants to sit there and have buffs, and Ron Mei does that. And if you pair Ron Mei and Ting Yun together, this is a great combo. It's incredibly skill point efficient. You can use a healer or a tank to occasionally use their skill points to protect Clara, and you can basically spam Ting Yun's skill in order to get Ting Yun's ultimate up faster, which basically gives you half of Clara's ultimate back right away. Clara will get a ton of energy by getting hit, and she's going to gain a ton of energy from Ting Yun by using that. You also have a great option. I just mentioned this earlier about the energy in Huo Huo. Huo Huo gives you energy and attack. Clara loves this. The combination between Huo Huo, Ron Mei, and Ting Yun is busted, bro. It's absolutely busted. I love that team. It's such a good team. Now, obviously, you have other options as well. Any good, support or healer or preservation that can protect her is really, really good. But I really, really like Huo Huo. I think that's your best option because of the energy that she provides to Clara, keeping Clara's ultimate active. Obviously, there's a ton of other characters that work really well with Clara, but those are the ones that come to mind. You obviously have Pela as well. Silverwolf is pretty good, but I like Pela more than Silverwolf in this case because Pela's ultimate debuffs all of the enemies on the field, and you never know who Clara's going to end up hitting with one of her counter follow-up attacks. So Pela basically guarantees that no matter what, whoever you're hitting is going to have that debuff. But that's also why I like the harmony buffers such as Ron Mei or Ting Yun, because again, it doesn't matter who you hit with Clara, they're going to be buffed with those characters on your team. Obviously, Pure Fiction's a little bit different and will require whatever characters you have at your disposal. If you found any of this information helpful or informative in any way, shape, or form, consider leaving a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.